On a cold November night in Times Square, Officer Lawrence DePrimo saw a older homeless man sitting on the street without shoes on. He struck up a conversation with him and found out his shoe size and stole away into a Skechers store. Ended up putting up the money, almost $100, for a set of thermal boots. Bought them at the store and walked out and found this homeless man sitting on the street, put the boots on his feet and tied them up for them. This act of kindness probably would have been completely forgotten and completely unnoticed if it wasn't actually for a tourist that night who happened to be in Times Square, seeing this police officer doing this, whipped out her cell phone and took a picture of it, and the next day placed it on the Facebook page of the New York Police Department. Officer DePrimo ended up becoming an internet sensation overnight. People thought this was just an amazing act of kindness and caring and compassion that he gave to this homeless man. Later in an interview, he explained, he said, there was all kinds of reasons why he shouldn't have done it. He even went into, in the Skechers store, he was talking with the clerk, and the clerk was saying, this is New York. This isn't the way we treat homeless people here. And that the whole store was shocked that this police officer was doing something like this. You see, Officer DePrimo had voices, both internal and external, that were trying to influence his decision-making, particularly his decision-making in regards to showing compassion and care and love to another person. In the book of Mark, we hear of two kings that have crowds surrounding them. One is throwing a birthday party, and he has all of the well-to-do people of his kingdom there. The officers in the military, the wealthy, the nobles of the community have all gathered for this party that the king is throwing in honor of his own birthday. The second king likewise actually has a crowd of people around him, and that he's in a desolate place, but that the people have gathered around him because he's telling them what it means to live in his kingdom, what this kingdom is all about, and what it means to be a citizen in that kingdom, and they're longing to hear him talk about this. The one king, at his birthday party, decides that he's going to have this lady dance for his guests. Happens to be his niece, and that this woman dances and pleases everyone with her dancing. So out of a desire to show appreciation for her dancing, he says in front of all of his guests to his niece, "Ask for me anything up to half of my kingdom, and it shall be yours." His niece was kind of taken aback and goes and talks with her mother. And that the mother says, "I want this particular prisoner to be executed." This prisoner was an enemy, if you will, of this woman. She disliked the way that he would call out both the king and her publicly for things that they had done and decisions that they had made, and that the king had put him in prison with the intention of just trying to keep him quiet. And in fact, the king even kind of liked the guy. He would hear him talking, he'd have him come to talk with him, and he was perplexed by him, and he enjoyed listening to him. So the dancer comes back after having a conversation with her mother and tells the king, "I want this prisoner executed." Now this one king is in a dilemma. This prisoner does not deserve death. He's an innocent man. And the king even kind of likes him. But he's stuck with these inner voices that are trying to influence the way he makes this decision. He's now stuck here thinking, this man hasn't done anything deserving death. I kind of like him. Why should I do this? But I gave my word, and what are the guests going to think about me? They're going to think that I'm a weak king that can't even provide an execution order to somebody who is an enemy of mine publicly. The other king, he's out in the wilderness with his crowd of people. He's been teaching them all day, telling them about what it means to be a citizen in his kingdom. And he has his advisors come late in the day to him and try to give him some advice on what to do with this crowd of people. It was actually quite sizable, upwards of 5,000 families that have gathered to hear this king provide his speech that day. And his advisors tell him it's starting to get late, in that this is kind of an empty place, not a whole lot going on here, kind of a one-light town, and that you should really dismiss these people and tell them to leave so that they can go to the towns around and get food. Tell them that we're done for the day. Well, this king, knowing that he really kind of likes these people, he wants them to be a part of his kingdom, looks at his advisors and says, no, you feed them. Well, the advisors kind of scratch their head and go, there's no possible way we can do this. Even if we went around and bought 9 months' salary worth of bread, it would barely be enough to give each person a bite. And finally, the king asks his advisors, well, how much do we have now? And the advisors come back and say, we have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. You see, this king has a dilemma as well, because he has a decision to make about what to do with this crowd of people that he knows he wants to treat with kindness and compassion and care. But he has these outward voices, the voices of his advisors, that are telling him that these people need to be dismissed and gotten rid of because they don't have the resources or the capability or the power to be able to do what really should be done for the crowd. You see, this is the same dilemma that Officer DePrimo had. That he had this situation in which he had internal and external voices trying to influence the way he was thinking. That these two kings both forced into these dilemmas of decision-making. For the one king, unfortunately, he allowed this internal struggle and thought of embarrassment in front of his guests lead him into not providing justice for an innocent man in order for him to be executed. And it's unfortunate because the good that the king could have done was thwarted because he was unable to conquer these internal voices saying, I'm embarrassed, I have problems, what are people going to think, what are people going to say? The other king took matters into his own hands and did not allow the external voices of his advisors to get in the way of caring for this people, but rather he told them, he said, all right, give me the bread and the fish. And he said, go have everyone sit down in groups so that we can disperse the food easily. And then he takes the bread and the fish and he blesses it. And he separates it out. He breaks the bread and separates and splits the fish among his advisors and tells them, go feed the people. And that amazingly, the bread didn't run out. Incredibly, the fish did not diminish, but rather all 5,000 families ate and were satisfied. So much so that even 12 baskets of leftover bread and fish were taken up by the king's advisors. And then we see that these voices that were trying to influence the king did not stop him from doing the good that he knew he should do. You know, we are in those types of positions all the time, where we have either internal voices or external voices that are consistently pressing on us. I hear of stories like Officer DePrimo, and it makes me wonder myself about the good or the care or love that I should be giving to someone, that I allow either my own internal voice to convince me I shouldn't do it. You know, I say things like, I don't have the time right now to do something like this, or that person is there because of their own problems, and they're just going to try to take advantage of me anyway if I go and try to help them. Or maybe it's an outside voice sometimes that gets in my way, in that I want to go do something good, and someone says to me, why in the world would you do that? That's crazy. They're just in the way. When I get into that place, and I think of other times where I've been there, I recognize and look at these two kings now. And I say, I want to be like this second king. The first king, which oftentimes it's easy for me to be, is King Herod. But the second king who I long to be like is Jesus of Nazareth. And Jesus looks at this crowd of people who he's being told by his advisors to send away. And rather than seeing a problem, he sees people. Rather than seeing a nuisance, he sees new friends. Rather than seeing a strain on his resources and on his time, he sees opportunity. Any time that you sense that there's probably some good or some caring that you should be pouring out upon someone, some type of love that you should be giving to someone. That we have the ability to be one of these two kings. The king that lets the internal and external voices dominate the way that they think, or the king that says, I'm not going to allow someone else's influence or even my own internal fears to overcome my ability to do love and care to another. And so the next time you find yourself in the line at the grocery store, stressed out, because the cashier is not moving as fast as you want, or the next time that the road rage starts to settle in, or the next time your son or daughter just is getting underneath you, or the next time you're presented with the opportunity to do something good, but you know it's going to cost you time and energy, I encourage you to stop. Stop to think, why am I reacting this way? Am I viewing this situation as a problem? Or am I looking at the person in front of me? Am I looking at this situation or this circumstance as a nuisance rather than the possibility for something new to come out of it? And am I willing to place myself second after the needs and wants of someone else? So stop. Think about Officer DePrimo. Think about this Jesus who stopped and saw people, because the people mattered to him. Therefore, people should matter to us. As we realize that we matter, the people around us matter. The creation matters. The world matters. Every decision we make matters. Truly, everything matters. We thank you for joining us on this journey. If this teaching, this message has been helpful to you, please subscribe to the channel and share it with someone else who likewise will be encouraged or inspired by what was shared.